All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to True Crime Loser. I hope you're doing well. So, folks, today I got a hell of a story for you. This case actually wrapped up in 2019, but then just a couple months ago, the YouTube channel Blue Dot posted all of the interrogations that are related to it and some secret recordings and all this stuff. And watching all of those, it paints a wild story. That's the story I'm going to tell you guys today. So settle in, grab a coffee. I'm going to post all of the related interrogations from the Blue Dot channel in the description. So go over and give them some love. And here we go. So in 2015, a man named Anthony Tomaselli is living in Palm Harbor, Florida. I just drove through that area. We rented a house for a week to celebrate my dad's retirement. But this Anthony Tomaselli is actually living in Florida for his retirement in Palm Harbor. And I've noticed that anytime the word palm is in the name somewhere, it's not just fruity drinks and tiki huts. It is that, but there's something sinister going on beneath the surface. And so Anthony Tomaselli, he's 85 years old. He's definitely in the last chapter of his life, but it's not a bad last chapter. He's living in Palm Harbor with his longtime companion, Shirley. He's got a girlfriend. Shirley is making sure he goes to the doctor, making sure he takes his pills, taking care of him. Anthony Tomaselli's, he liked during the day to watch Price is Right. You know, Price is Right. Hey, there you go. He guessed the price. And then on Wednesdays, he would drive himself with his granddaughter to Arby's, grab a roast beef sandwich. His doctors knew he was driving still and were okay with it. So he'd take a little drive on Wednesdays to Arby's. Anthony Tomaselli's nights usually consisted of throwing on a sporting event. He was excited about sporting events. He knew which sporting events were coming up. He could follow the whole thing. He'd have a couple cocktails during it, which he would get up and make himself. He'd land the plane. He'd take a couple sleeping pills, and he would head to bed. And like I said, his health was not great. He had a part of his lung removed because of lung cancer years before. He would, right around this time, develop another kind of serious cough, but listen, he was hungry still. He was driving still. You know, he had a life. Well, in 2015, Shirley, his longtime companion, his girlfriend, she took care of him, dies. And now it's up in the air. What is going to happen to poor Anthony Tomaselli? He's 85 years old. His companion dies. He had 3 kids, a son and 2 daughters. The 2 daughters are Linda and Mary Beth. And all of his kids work and are married at this time. And I think it was really nice of them when Shirley was around, because all of the stress of their father, Anthony Tomaselli, going slowly downhill with the lung cancer issues, and the dementia is coming on, and he's getting older. And when Shirley was around, they had everything was figured out. All of a sudden, Shirley's gone, and his 2 daughters, Linda and Mary Beth, come into the picture. And as they come into the picture, dark clouds really block out the sun and the whole thing. So all of a sudden, Linda and Mary Beth are on scene. And 8 days after Shirley died, so just a week after that his longtime companion, his girlfriend, the person that took care of him, a week after she passes away, they've already brought Anthony Tomaselli, their father, into a assisted living home called like Brookhaven or something horrifying like that. And they showed it to him. They said, "Look, Dad, your insurance pays for this place. You can come in. They'll watch you. Now that Shirley's gone, you need someone to watch you. This is perfect. Look, there's a nice grass area. You'll have your own room. It is perfect." Well, the 85-year-old Anthony Tomaselli said, "No, I'm not going here. It's the end if I go there. Look, I'm still living a life. I'm driving myself." And right about that time, Anthony Tomaselli's granddaughter, Mary Beth, the 2 evil daughters are Linda and Mary Beth, Mary Beth's daughter, who had gone to jail for selling pain pills and being addicted to pain pills. She had this whole pain pill issue. She had gotten out of jail and moved in with her grandpa, Anthony, and was taking care of him. And it sounded like it was actually working really well. In an interview 4 years later, it really sounds like she was the only one that truly cared for her grandpa. And it also sounds like she was getting some good life meaning from taking care of him. You know, she just gets out of jail. Probably her self-confidence isn't too high. There's a lot of pressure, like, all right, make it happen. And that pressure of like, all right, make a real life happen, brings a lot of people back to whatever they were doing to put them in jail. So it seems, looking from where I was sitting, that it worked out pretty great, that the granddaughter that had issues with selling the pain pills and doing pain pills, she gets out of jail, doesn't quite know what to do. She moves right in with her grandpa, and it's giving her life meaning to help her grandpa, making sure he takes the pills, making sure he goes to the doctor's appointment, making sure if he falls, someone's there, the whole thing. Well, Linda and Mary Beth, so it's Mary Beth's daughter and it's Linda's niece, they're not happy with that situation. I don't know if Mary Beth thinks her daughter, it'll keep her life stagnant to sit there, and take care of her grandfather. I don't know if she thinks that she'll just continue to eat pain pills all day. If that, I don't know if they think that there's no way that we're going to have the daughter that just got out of jail take care of him, when actually it seemed like maybe the perfect situation. It's like they didn't want to take care of him. They had their families, they had their jobs, they couldn't be there during the day. They don't want to be there at night because they have the next day to do everything they need to do during the day. So if he falls at night or if he calls and he's confused at night, Linda and Mary Beth don't want anything to do with it. And the fact that his insurance paid for this assisted living home, in their head, they thought, this has to happen. It's just too perfect not to. Well, he puts a big stop to that when he says, no, I don't want to go to that place. And so that's all happens within a week after his companion Shirley dies. They bring him to him. He says no. They don't like that the granddaughter is staying there taking care of him. And so 8 days after, usually they stay at home with their families. They don't normally come and stay with him. But 8 days after, they stay with him. Mary Beth has a huge argument about not going to the assisted living home. Screaming. They don't understand it. Linda and Mary Beth would never admit it. They actually go to great lengths to say it was never about the money. Nothing to do with the money. But I think they were thinking to themselves, his insurance pays for this. If he doesn't go, he's going to blow all his money either on like a home health care person that's not covered, whatever it is. They wanted to sell the house or rent out the house to create more money. I think they were looking at the whole thing going, our inheritance is just going to be squandered away in these last few sad years of his life where he's demented and he wants to stay home. And he's going to squander the whole thing. And two, they're thinking, my nice, calm, stress-free life, which Shirley was taking care of anything that was stressful in the middle of the night, any confusion, any doctor's appointment, whatever it was, Shirley was the one that would figure it out. And all of a sudden now, they're on the hook. If he needs to call someone, if he needs to do this, it's not pretty as people get older, and they don't want to do that. They both have their jobs, and all of a sudden they got this stress. Their dad, and they think they have this perfect situation. Dad, you can go to the assisted living home, Brookhaven. It's nice. It's great. You have your own room. He says no. And then the horrifying gears in Linda and Mary Beth's head start turning. And the 9th day, so they stay that night. They see the shape he's in, and then they stay the next night. So now we're 9 days after his longtime companion Shirley died, and that's the night, I think, that Poor Anthony Tomaselli was in the other room enjoying a sporting event, sipping on his vodka and Diet Coke that he made himself, landing the plane, and his two daughters are in the other room while he's watching the basketball game. Shoots, he scores! Are in the other bedroom, laying in bed, deciding that the best thing to do is for them to kill their father the next day. And they're using the word euthanize, and they're saying the dementia is getting so bad, and his health is getting so bad, and they can't see him suffer anymore. But all of this is just cooked up in their two little heads, because the doctor who saw him regularly at that point, didn't say that it was the end. His granddaughter, who actually you can tell in her voice in police interviews years and years later that she legitimately cared for her grandfather and wanted to make his last years comfortable and didn't mind being in his house with them and playing that role. But Mary Beth and Linda decided that they were going to end their father's life to stop his suffering, which a lot of it they made up. But the plan is the next night that once he's ready to have his nightly drink, that they were going to put in around 10 sleeping pills in that drink, and he would drink it while watching the sporting event and fall asleep and have a comfortable passing and never wake up. So that is the plan, and I would guess it sounds like the plan really kicked off in Linda's scary head even before they pretend that it's that night when they're laying in bed going, we can't see our dad suffer like this. But I think the gears started turning in Linda's head when she was at a doctor's appointment a little bit before this, and the doctor and her father, Anthony Tomaselli, had a exchange where the doctor's saying, okay, so you take one of these sleeping pills every night, and then Anthony Tomaselli said, I take 2 every night, or listen, doc, some nights I need to take more, or I'm going to take as many as I need. I'm 85, sometimes I need to take an extra sleeping pill. And then the doctor said something like, you know what, that's all right. You are 85, I'll prescribe you this amount, but if you need to take an extra one, that's okay. So it sounds like Linda was in there listening to that exchange between her father and the doctor, and I think that's when the gears really started turning, and she got what she thought was like a genius idea, the genius part of the plan, which was Linda knew that if they put 10 sleeping pills into his drink, he drinks it, he dies. The first thing that law enforcement is going to do in their short investigation of when someone that old and in poor health dies, one of the things they're definitely going to do is go over to the pills, and if there's 10 pills missing, they're going to go, what the hell? Someone either gave him these, or maybe he committed suicide, and then they'd have a serious problem. But the part of the plan that Linda just thought was beyond genius, I think, was that coincidentally, she was prescribed the same sleeping pills as her father. So for, the 7 to 10 that they were going to use to put in his drink to quote-unquote euthanize him or murder him, which most people would call it, they were going to take one maybe extra of his, but then use Linda's, which she probably either saved up or had extra or who knows. And so inevitably, when the investigation comes, when he is dead of what they're saying is natural causes, and the law enforcement and ambulance people are there, they're going to go, all right, well, we got to check his medication, which they did, and they went over and they checked his pills just like Linda was hoping, and it was just like a 1 short or something. It wasn't 10 short or 5 short. And so they said, oh, it looks like he's 1 short on his sleeping medication. Well, then Linda knew that she could come in and say, honestly, I was at a doctor's appointment with my father. He had an exchange with his doctor saying, I'm going to take as many as I want. I might take an extra one. And the doctor said, you know what? That's okay. You're 85. Do what you need to do to put yourself to bed. And so I think she thought that would just be the real kicker. It's like, even if they did say, wait a second, he tested a little bit higher for this sleeping pill, or look, in his little pill thing, or the days of the week he's missing extra, she could come right in and say that. If they want, they could go to the doctor. The doctor could say, yep, we did have that conversation. And then there you go. Sad, but true. He passed away of natural causes. But the plan did not go according to plan. So the next day, it's coming up to the time where he normally has that drink. They're ready. I'm not sure what they thought as it was leading into this. All right, we're going to do it, what they thought they were going to do with the granddaughter. Because maybe, remember, her role is to take care of the grandfather, and she actually cares about him. You can tell the way she talks about him. Linda and Mary Beth are just, there's nothing there. But the granddaughter, you can tell, actually cares about her grandfather, and it's also her job at that point in her life to take care of him. So I think Linda was thinking, we got to drug the granddaughter. What are we going to do? She didn't quite know how to do it. This is just me speculating, but you can kind of tell. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. So it's heading to that early evening, the time where he usually throws a game on and has a drink. So they're saying, okay. I think they probably nodded at each other like, okay, let's do it. And Mary Beth makes the drink. Well, this is the first part of the plan that just goes horrifically wrong. Linda, in her head, was thinking that Mary Beth was going to make a drink, just like a short little rocks glass, one shot of vodka, a little Diet Coke, and the sleeping pills. Well, Mary Beth, I think, figured it'd be better to make like a tall drink. I don't know if she thought that more liquid would mean harder to taste everything, but she made like a single tall drink and put the sleeping pills in and hands that to him. And Linda's going, what are you doing? He's an old man. He's not going to be able to slug down a huge cocktail. And Mary Beth is going, well, that's the size of drink he normally has. Or I don't know, they're having this like in the moment, like, what are you doing? That drink is huge. It's like, that's the type, he has a big drink every night. Well, anyway, he drinks very little of the huge drink that has all the sleeping pills in it. But he does get enough of the sleeping pills, it starts to affect him. So he has prayer cards that he reads every night. Some of them are in Italian, and he starts doing his prayer thing. And he drops the prayer cards, which really makes the granddaughter, Mary Beth's daughter, who has been there to take care of him, night after night. Linda and Mary Beth have just been there the past couple nights, right? They were there, they got into a big fight with him, then they were there the next night, and they decided they're going to murder him, and then they're there. So she's been there, she knows his normal behavior as he's going to bed, and he drops the prayer cards, and his hands are shaking, and she starts to get really nervous. Like, what is going on? This is not normal, he shouldn't have dropped. Well, obviously, Linda and Mary Beth are saying, no, it's all right. He's just getting old. I know you're stressed out. And so they give her a sleeping pill and say, just calm down. Linda, in her inevitable police interrogation, it says, I think I gave her an Ambien. But in the daughter's police interrogation, or the granddaughter, Mary Beth's daughter, she thinks that Linda gave her a Xanax, and you could, I think with that question, trust the ex-pillhead, because they're going to remember whether they were given an Ambien or a Xanax. They're much different. She was saying she got a Zanny the nanny. So she says that Linda was like, it's okay, we're here, we're going to watch him, you should get some sleep, gave her Zanny the nanny, and which is probably her weakness, right? She had just been in jail for being addicted to opiates and Zanny the nanny, and so now here she is. They probably knew, like, you can't say no to this, here you go. And so she takes a Zanny the nanny and goes to bed. So she's off with the nanny, fast asleep. And so now Linda and Mary Beth are out there. Their poor father is on the couch going, has tremors from all these sleeping pills they gave him. He didn't drink that much of the drink, and they're just watching him. And probably they were very relieved that all of a sudden he closed his eyes. He's laying there on the couch, and it looked like it was over. But then all of a sudden he opened his eyes up and he's looking at him. And I'm sure they were like, oh my God. And he's there and he's still the effects of the miner sleeping. And they're like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And these two old crones decide, all right, let's just do it with a pillow. The old fashioned, you've seen it in a bunch of movies. So they get a pillow and just picture, Anthony Tomaselli. He's lived this whole life. He's reared these two girls up, his daughters, and now they're in their late 50s and they're coming at you in the middle of the night with this pillow. And you got to think, even if poor Anthony, even if the sleeping pills were working a little bit and he's old and he's a little bit demented, I think the sheer adrenaline cranking through your body of your daughters trying to murder you for 10 minutes, first with the pills and now they're trying to use the pillow, and another just example of why he was probably nowhere near needing to be euthanized like his two daughters have decided he needs to be euthanized, is because he was too strong for them to do it with the pillow. He was basically bucking them off. Imagine that scene. So these two, Linda and Mary Beth, try the pillow. He's too strong. Now they've tried the pills. They've tried the pillow. I'm sure he's on the couch going, oh my God, is this really happening? And then Linda says, okay, we have to finish what we started. I'm going to go get a washcloth. And she goes and gets a bathroom washcloth out of the bathroom and comes out. She stuffs the washcloth in her dad's mouth. They say, all right, I'm going to stuff it in his mouth. I'll hold it in his mouth. She tells Mary Beth, you hold his nose. Somehow Mary Beth holds his arms down. I bet she was straddling him with his arms pressed against his body, holding his nose. Linda is shoving the washcloth in his mouth, making sure it stays there. Sounds like it took an excruciating couple minutes. I mean, just imagine that scene. The granddaughter's been drugged with the nanny in the other room. And finally, after, like I said, a couple brutal minutes, they killed their father. And then now Linda and Mary Beth are just in his living room. The easy, we'll give him a few of his pills and he'll drift off away peacefully. Couldn't have gone worse. And they just kind of went to bed. They say they didn't even take off their clothes off. Just imagine laying in bed after that scene. Just holy smokes. And in the morning, they have a hell of a theater to pull off, right? Because the granddaughter's going to wake up. Zanny the nanny's going to be worn off. There's got to be the 911 call. I've done a whole video on calling 911 on yourself. It's not the easiest thing to do. You got to do it immediately. You got to say all the right things. But they have a kind of a clever way to set it up so neither of them, Linda or Mary Beth, have to do it. But anyway, the granddaughter wakes up to her mom, Mary Beth, screaming in the other room. She comes out of the bedroom, probably a little bit foggy, comes out. Linda is on top of Anthony Tomaselli, her dad, doing just theater, doing CPR, and is like literally on top of him. Mary Beth is standing in the doorway, shaking and screaming bloody murder, saying that she isn't in the right state to call 911. Linda, who had been a medical assistant for 30 years, instead of calling 911, calls the doctor that she works for and goes, I think my father's dead. What should I do? Mary Beth is in the doorway of some bedroom screaming and shaking. The granddaughter, Mary Beth's daughter, who was taking care of her grandfather, goes into the other room and is the one that calls 911. So saving Linda or Mary Beth the hard-to-do fake 911 call. The ambulance and emergency people come out. They say, Linda, get off. We get it that you're trying to save your dad. She's still on top of him going, come on, Dad, please. And they say, sorry, he's been dead for a while. Just like Linda thought. They did an investigation while he's laying right there. They check his pills. They say, I think there's one short. She comes in with he talked to his doctor. I was there. That it's normal that he might be one short. They say, okay. They call the crematorium, the cremation place, who Anthony, because he was in his final chapter of life, he had called them already and set it up. So they, you can imagine that call, Linda and Mary Beth. Hey, how are you? Yep, it's time for the cremation. If you could come right now. So I think minutes or, not long after the short investigation. Oh, he's missing a couple pills. Oh, the doctor said, all right, he's really old. The people that work at the cremation place came and got him, brought him. He was cremated. There's no more evidence, really. And Linda and Mary Beth vow to take it to the grave. They inherited $110,000 each. Same with the brother. He has no idea that, any of this happened. Like I said, they say it wasn't about the money. It never was anything. Okay, so they say, we're going to take this to the grave. Well, taking it to the grave lasted about 3.5 years when Mary Beth is on Facebook and she sees on Facebook the account of a local cover tunes musician named Anthony Marsh. He's in a local band. They play cover tunes, and she messaged him on, I think she probably thought it looked good, and he's a musician for this band. So she messages Anthony Marsh and ends up going to one of Anthony Marsh's shows. They end up going back to Mary Beth's place after the show, sleeping together. Anthony Marsh is married, but it sounds like he really has a lot of the late 50s, early 60s cover band, tiki hut. He's got a lot of groupies, right? He's got all these girlfriends, and so meets Mary Beth. They go sleep together at her place a couple times, and then Mary Beth goes to another show. This time, and it's the third time she's met Anthony Marsh. She brings Linda with her. Well, Linda, being the awesome person that she's proven to be, likes Anthony as well. So she starts texting Anthony behind her sister's back. Up until this point, it's been Mary Beth and Anthony with their little romance. He's a musician. Whoa, he has cover tunes. And I actually found Anthony Marsh's YouTube channel, and a couple of his videos and you could tell he puts out the vibes for the early 60s cougars, because a couple of his YouTube videos, he goes out on the beach, shirtless, and he sits down and he sets the camera down so most of the shot is just his crotch, right? He hikes a leg up. So the swimsuit is so tight, it's about ready to explode off of his body. And like I said, the main shot is his crotch, like his head. Here, I actually have it up here. I'll just show you guys. Come on. Look at this. This is the shot he goes for his YouTube video. So look at that. The crotch is the main star of the show. Like his little head is up there, way kind of far away. But and I think this drove Linda and Mary Beth, the early 60s cover tunes crew, wild. And so there he is, Anthony Marsh. So like I said, the third time that Mary Beth hung out with him, she introduced him to Linda. Linda, come to the show. It'll be fun. And so Linda does. Linda goes, oh, I like him. I'm just going to try to seduce him, take him from my sister. And right also about this time, so when they killed the father, Linda's marriage was on the way to a divorce. Mary Beth's marriage was still, I think, all right. And then after they killed their father, I think it was hard for both of them. As you can imagine, that's not the easiest memory to just push to the side and then just have a happy life. Yeah, I rarely think about that night. And so I think both their lives went into the toilet. Both get divorces. Both claim that have really abusive spouses. And so now, with their once families, those are gone, they decide to move in together. The two old murderous birds are two peas in a pod, and they're moving in together, so they get a place together. But imagine that. So they get a place together. All of a sudden, Linda or Mary Beth thinks she's met this new fun musician. Oh, it's great. He's a musician. That's cool. And then all of a sudden, Linda is dating him. Mary Beth and Anthony have a wild falling out where Mary Beth really just hates him, doesn't want to see him, which is understandable. But think about that. You date this guy for a couple times. He's married. There's no future in it. He's also just kind of treats you terribly. And so the last thing you want to do is see him after the short romance fades. Well, Mary Beth has to see him because now he's dating Linda and they live in the same place. So imagine Mary Beth's in her late 50s. She just wants to live a peaceful life. She had this quick romance with the Cover Tunes guy. You know, you don't picture yourself going to see him on a regular basis, and picture her like getting up in the middle of the night or coming out of her room and just seeing Anthony Mars like in his underwear in the kitchen scratching his balls or something, just like, hey Mary Beth, sorry, and going back into Mary Beth's room. And Linda, you can tell, was just playing it off of like, we just like each other, sorry Mary Beth, but you know, it would just be hard. The last thing she wants to do is see him, let alone hear her sister and Anthony giggling in the other room. So as they first move in together, I think Linda was on this little bit of a high with a new relationship. Mary Beth was on a low from losing kind of an exciting new romance. And then on top of losing it, just the guy turns out to be... She hates the guy, and then on top of that, she has to see him, and her sister's dating him. And so the whole thing is kind of a nightmare for Mary Beth at the beginning. Also, Linda is just totally all over the place. Mary Beth said that every month, I think they lived together for about a year, every month she would come home, Mary Beth would come home to a note from Linda saying, I am going back to my ex-husband Ted, who she had said was very abusive. She had filed, I think, 4 different domestic violence type injunctions against her ex-husband, Ted. But Mary Beth would come home and there'd be a note on the table saying, I am going back with my ex-husband, Ted. And then she would go, I think he lived in North Carolina or South Carolina. She would go live with Ted, her ex-husband, for a week or 2 weeks or a month, and then inevitably be back every time with nothing but terrible things to say about him. Just, yeah, he's on coke, he's a drug addict, I'm back. And then she would hang out with Anthony, but Anthony, yeah, I don't know. He's married, he's got all these girlfriends. He doesn't really, I think, care about Linda. Linda likes him. You can tell Linda likes him, but if Anthony never saw Linda again, I don't think it would be that big of a deal for him. And so this becomes an extremely hard time in Linda's life because all of a sudden, going off to live with Ted, again, never works. She comes back. She really wants to hang out with Anthony, who she likes, but Anthony has got a bunch of girlfriends and his actual wife, and he has no real connection to Linda other than just, I think, sex, and if he's bored, he can entertain the relationship for a little bit. And so Linda, who is not taking the memory of what they did well at all. She says that she's having dreams where she wakes up in the middle of the night and her father is standing at the foot of her bed. Imagine that. You wake up, you can't move, and your father's standing at the foot of your bed going, you murdered me, Linda, you bitch. And then, and just really going through it. And she had worked as a a medical assistant for 30 years, lost her sight right around the time that they killed her father. So she was technically retired and on disability and not much to do all day. And ex-husband Ted, even though she tries to get back, doesn't work. Anthony, who she likes, the musician, doesn't really care about her at all. And she sits in their place and just drives herself absolutely crazy. And she's having these dreams. And during that point, remember, Mary Beth was kind of down in the dumps. She lost the relationship, had to watch her sister have the relationship with the guy, and I think had a really tough time. Well, she, as their lease, Linda and Mary Beth's lease where they live together, as their lease is ending, coming to a close, she meets somebody. And it seems to be going really well. And she says many times, Mary Beth says many times, for the first time in my life, it felt like it was going good. It felt like the first nice guy that I was with, they were going to move in together. So the roles definitely changed. At the beginning when they moved in, remember, Linda takes the guy from her sister, Sari, having the kind of an exciting romance with the cover band guy. Mary Beth is down in the dumps from losing it, but then all of a sudden now she has met this new guy. As their lease is coming to an end, she has somewhere exciting to move into. They're going to move in together. Her life seems to be going in the right direction. Well, as that lease is ending for Linda, and she knows she's going to have to move out somewhere, it's not looking good. She doesn't have a new, exciting relationship that feels better than anything she ever has. She has Ted, the allegedly abusive ex-husband, that they can't even be together for 2 weeks without Linda having to drive back to Florida, or Anthony, who is just a serial dating, doesn't care about her, has no real skin in the game with their relationship. And she's sitting there, and the memory of what she did to her dad is just driving her nuts. And towards the end of their lease together, Linda decides, I'm going to go on a cruise because that should solve everything. Everything that I've done and everything that has happened will be washed away in a nice, relaxing cruise. Well, it sounded like she didn't have fun on the cruise. Well, you can imagine. She's probably sitting there, and it's the scenes of her attempting to put a pillow over his dad's head, but her dad bucking her off were probably playing through their heads like, come on, join the conga line, we're on a cruise, woo! And she goes, no, it's all right, I'll watch. And they're like, we're gonna do the Macarena and then grab a buffet, come on, we're cruising, baby. And I picture her just going, no, you know what, I'm a little bit tired tonight, I'm gonna go back to my room. And she goes back to her room on the cruise, and she's sitting in her room alone. Maybe she turns on the TV and it's an advertisement for something like, a father and daughter's bond is unlike anything else. And that's why, and she changed the channel really quick, and it's some sitcom, and it's like, thanks, Dad, you're the best. And she turns off the TV and is just sitting there. And then she texts, the whole cruise, she texts Anthony. But he didn't, if he did respond, it was, like very little. A lot of times he didn't respond. So just picture Linda on a cruise that's supposed to be so fun and relaxing, and it's all she can think about is murdering her dad. And Anthony, who she wishes would text her and be a part of this relationship that she wished would happen, is just not. And so then she gets back from the horrible cruise, and she reaches out to Anthony, the crotch shot cover tunes guy, and says, okay, there's a reason why I'm so crazy over text. Apparently she would just text Anthony and be like, you're selfish, and go on and go off on him. And then like the next day be like, hey, sorry, I took an Ambien and I had a drink. Even though Anthony says he never saw her have a drink. She would always say, hey, sorry, I had a drink. That's why I was so crazy. I went off. She would send some just really long-winded crazy text. So then the next day she'd be stuck on, I had an Ambien, I had a drink, I'm not normally like this. And there were a bunch of those, but I don't think Anthony really cared. It's not like he was totally invested in the relationship. He just, all right, well, this is kind of stressful, I'll just hang out with my wife instead, or another whatever. And so when she gets back from that cruise, I think the loneliness really set in. Mary Beth is all happy. She's about ready to move on with her new relationship. They're moving in together. Linda is planning on going and living with Ted again, the old ex-husband, that it never worked. So think about how much anxiety that was probably induced. Just going, we've never been able to live together for more than a month or two, or then we just have a huge blow up, and then I come back to my and Mary Beth's place. Well, without a place to come back to, I think she knew in her little soul that it was not going to work. But that was her plan, was going to move back in with Ted. I think that was throwing her for a loop. And just the loneliness and waking up in the middle of the night and having her dad standing there going, "You killed me," just clouded her judgment. And so in her head, I think she thought, all right, I'm going to reach out to Anthony, which she did. She calls Anthony, the crotch shot cover tunes guy, and she goes, "Anthony, please come over to my place. I want to tell you why I'm so crazy over text and why I've been acting like this and why I'm all over the place." Hold on. There's an explanation. I feel bad that I just have been coming at you over text. If you could please come over to our place, I want to talk to you. And I think she just wanted him to come over, and I think she thought that he could come over and she could tell him what happened and come clean, and it would make her feel better and maybe end the dreams where he's at the foot of the bed. And then he would say, "Oh my gosh, that is so crazy. I'm so sorry that you guys had to go through that. I'm sure it was hard seeing your dad deteriorate like that. And you did botch the whole thing incredibly bad, but you did end your dad's suffering, and that does make sense why you've been acting like that, and you're so crazy all the time, and I feel for you." And I think she thought that she could confide in Anthony, the crotch shot cover tunes guy, and he would go, "Man, that is crazy, but it's okay. Come here." They hug. She probably thought they'd have sex. This whole thing, she really liked him still. So just the place that she was at in her mindset, I think, made her think, this is a great idea. Woo! So she calls Anthony. "Anthony, come over. I want to tell you I've just been so crazy to you, and I'm all over the place, and just have been sending all these nutso texts." And so Anthony comes over, and she's going, "Yeah, I got to tell you what happened between me and my father." And Anthony thought that it was going to be like her father molested her type story. And so it's going with that. And then she says basically that it's nothing sexual. And then Anthony pulls out his phone and starts recording. And he records the whole thing of Linda telling the story. And you can tell that Anthony knows that a lot of people are going to see this recording. He's being very performative. It went the total opposite. I think Linda thought he was going to go, "Oh my gosh, that's so wild, but come here, let me give you a hug. That sounds horrible." But instead, he's saying things like, "I was raised Catholic. Were you raised Catholic?" And she goes, "Yeah." And he's going, "Well, you are probably going to hell. You're going to go to prison, and then you're going to hell." And she's going, "You don't have to say it like that, Anthony. Anthony." You can just tell that she really likes him. And he's going, "You murdered your father. I can't believe you. How do you murdered your father?" And she's going, "Anthony, don't say it like that. We euthanized him. It wasn't just me. It was both of us. We euthanized him." But anyway, there's a 30-minute basically confession, and he had even says he watches like all the forensic files. So here, all of a sudden, it's like the crotch shot cover tunes guy launches into forensic files detective mode. And you could tell that this instantly becomes the most electric thing in his life, and he's like on the case to a point where at some points it feels a little bit weird. But anyway, he does a pretty solid job in the sense that he pulls his phone out, he gets her saying the story. I think that same day, after that, which it ends with her going, so what are you going to do? Are you going to go tell on me? And he's going, no. Well, I mean, you would just deny it anyway. And she goes, yeah. And that one ends. And I think, like I said, that day he goes to Mary Beth's place, who they don't even talk anymore. And he confronts Mary Beth in her driveway, basically saying, Linda told me exactly what happened, and you need to tell me your side of the story. Mary Beth says that he tried to blackmail her, saying, you need to have sex with me or I'm going to turn you in. Who knows? Could have just been Mary Beth trying to bring down the guy that was bringing them down. Then the next day, let me get a drink. The next day, Anthony Marsh goes in to the police station, tells them the story, shows them the recording. They do a investigation over the next couple weeks. And on the the day before the 4-year anniversary of when they brutally murdered their father, they both get taken in. Mary Beth shows up to work. Imagine how many times you've driven to work, that same routine. She drives to work, she parks her car, she opens the car of her door to get out, and there's detectives right there saying, Mary Beth, can we bring you down to the police station to talk to you about some things? And she agrees. They bring her down to the police station. It's 9 a.m. Apparently, as they're setting their folders up and looking through everything to get ready to start the interrogation, she catches a glimpse of a picture of her father. She puts that 2 and 2 together with what Anthony said. Remember, they've said, we're going to take this to the grave. And as far as she knows, which is true, now Anthony is the first person that has been told. And so she knows from Anthony coming and confronting her in the driveway, what's your side of the story? You should turn yourself in. And she goes, get out of here. She knows that that just happened, so someone else knows. She knows that Anthony does not like her. She knows that Linda told someone. She sees the picture in the folder of the homicide detectives. And so she goes with the strategy of, I am just going to be hyper honest. They say, do you know why you're here? And she goes, I think so. And they go, okay, well, we want to talk about your father. What happened to your father? And she makes the decision to be hyper honest. And these detectives, the strategies they use to get both of them talking are pretty terrible. Like the one guy goes, see me, I like honesty. And I could tell you like honesty too. It's like, wow, good job. And then he goes on this thing where he goes, you have a daughter. You raised your daughter to when she makes a mistake. He's like doing these pauses where you can tell he's kind of just making it up as he goes. He goes, so you have a daughter and you've raised her where if she makes a mistake, you want her to come clean, right? And Mary Beth's like, yeah. And then it's like the detective doesn't know where he was going with it. So he just goes, all right, so what happened to your father? And like I said, just seeing the picture, knowing that Anthony probably told them everything that happened already, Mary Beth decides to just spill the whole thing. They don't even really have to put any pressure on her, but they do create a vibe. Both Mary Beth and Linda are so naive on the process of interrogating and what their rights are. They're so naive. They think when the detectives say, okay, now it's time to tell the truth. This is your one shot to tell the truth. They think that it means that it is or something. You know, they don't know that you can just go, oh, really? It is? It's the time, bud? And so Linda goes with, she just is going to tell everything, even the unnecessary. Like one part she goes, it was premeditated. And the detectives are just like, all right. Okay, you could have probably left that part out, but maybe the strategy, and I think that Mary Beth thought in her heart of hearts that if she came out and just said all of the horrible stuff, the pillow, the washcloth in the mouth, Linda left out the pillow part when she told Anthony, and in her interrogation, she would leave the pillow part too. But Mary Beth said all the parts, thinking that, okay, I'm going to be hyper honest with all the horrible parts, but behind the horrible parts, I'm going to put in my narrative, which she just goes over and over again, how old and demented her father was, how much suffering he was in, which isn't backed up by the granddaughter who was actually watching him and the doctors that saw him. But she paints this picture that he was a totally demented, in pain, pretty much a vegetable. So the strategy is, I'm going to be so open with you, but also put in my narrative. And then she assumes this tone of like, maybe it was wrong and maybe we didn't have the right to do it, but looking back, I don't think I would have done anything different. I couldn't watch my father live that way. He wasn't living a life. Yeah, it was brutal. The pillow and shoving a bathroom washcloth down his throat was awful, but I still don't think that I would have done anything different. And they're going, okay, and they let her go on, and she paints she paints her sister Linda. She goes, my sister is evil. I have an evil sister. She's a pathological liar. So she's throwing the sister under the bus. And like I said, the tone of the interrogators, or at least the one when he's trying to be an interrogator, like, when you have a daughter, you tell her when she reaches into the cookie jar, all of that sounds terrible. It goes nowhere. It sounds like this fake interrogation tone. But what they are good at is setting up the vibes of when Mary Beth is telling the really tough parts, but like going like, yeah, we tried it with a pillow and it didn't work. So we went and got a washcloth, and they're really good at just going, I understand. We understand. And I truthfully think that Mary Beth is going, okay, well, I've been very honest with them. They said at the beginning, we're not arresting you. They both fell for that, the classic police interrogation. We are not arresting you. Fast forward 40 minutes. Mary Beth, we are arresting you. And so they told her, we're not arresting you. We just want to talk. You tell us your side. We'll move on and we'll move forward. And just being totally naive and a little bit stupid, I think she thought, okay, I'm going to just be more honest than they ever thought was possible. Insert my little narrative here and here. Yeah, I still wouldn't have changed what I did. Maybe looking back, I didn't have the right to do it, but that doesn't mean we didn't stop his suffering. It goes on for like an hour, and finally they say, Mary Beth, you knew what you did was wrong, right? And she goes, yes. And then she goes, are you arresting me? And he goes, yes, we are. And she is totally stunned. Remember, in her eyes, for the first time in her life, things are going well. She's got a non-abusive relationship. They're moving in together. She'd lived with crazy Linda and her crotch shots and cover tunes boyfriend for the past year, which was probably horrible. And now they cuff her, and as they're leaving the room and leaving her sitting in the room alone cuffed, she bursts into tears. And so, somewhere during that interrogation, they find Linda driving around, and they bring her down. The way they got Linda to come down and talk is they told her that they wanted to talk to her about the injunctions that she had put in about Ted, her allegedly abusive husband, who, if you remember, she's possibly now going back to live with now that she's moving out of the place with her sister. So they bring in Linda, and again, that she didn't forget that just a short 2 weeks ago, for the first time, she told crotch shots and cover tunes the whole story. And now all of a sudden, for the first time, homicide detectives are saying, hey, can you come down and talk to us, Linda, about the injunctions about Ted? And so she's going, okay. And they put her in the interrogation room, and they're sitting there, and they go, okay, we want to talk about Ted. And she's going, okay. And they go, but first, what's your job? And she explains to them her job. And then all of a sudden they go, the detective goes, I was looking at a report, so your father's deceased. And it had to have been surreal after all those years and just thinking that it was a great idea to tell the cover tunes guy your deepest and darkest secret. here you're in a small little interrogation room, and the detective is saying to you, so I saw a report, your dad's deceased? Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? And she goes, okay. And Linda is a good liar. She doesn't say too much. She doesn't wave her hands around like a weirdo. I would put her in the top 3 liars of interrogations that I've gone through, which is a lot at this point. And so they go, okay, what happened to your dad? And so she just calmly, it sounds pretty true actually, calmly tells the story of how, just out of concern, her and Mary Beth went over there a week after his companion Shirley died, and that they went to bed, that he dropped his prayer cards. He didn't seem like he was doing good, but he went to bed and was snoring away, so they thought, all right, maybe he'll bounce back. They went to bed. They woke up. He was dead. She got on top of him and was doing CPR. The emergency people came, did an investigation. She made sure to throw in the part about his pills. The doctor told him he could take another one, and the pill number matched up. And so she gets done with that story. Maybe takes 10 minutes. And they just go, Linda, that's not what happened. Tell us what happened to your father. And I'm sure that it's spinning in her head because she told Anthony, and she goes, well, so what changed? And they go, Linda, that's not what happened. And she's going, well, who told you something different? Which already is pretty much confessing in a way, because imagine if you really, if that's what actually did happen to her dad, or your dad, say you're in your dad's place trying to take care of him, he dies for natural causes, and then all of a sudden a homicide detective in a cheap blue dress shirt and a crew cut is telling you, that's not what happened to your dad. I know what happened to your dad. If that's what really happened, you'd go, oh, really? You know? Wow. Look at the big interrogation dick on this guy. Well, you know what you're also about to know is my lawyer's phone number, because you're going to go call her, and also bring me a water. You're not going to sit there and go, who told you something else happened? And I'm not sure why. We've seen a lot of cases where it's smart for the investigators to hide their hand, to hide what they have. But there has to be a reason, right? For this, the 2 detectives are trying to hold their hand that they have this recording of her, that her sister just sang like a canary in the other room. But they're just, instead of just going, Linda, we got this, what's your side of the story? It's just this we know what happened, and that's not what happened. Well, then Linda just goes, well, who told you that? I don't think you have a trustworthy source of what happened, because that's what did happen. And he does the thing again, I like honesty. I'm a guy that likes honesty, and you like honesty, and you have a daughter, and you raised her to also like honesty. And if she makes a mistake, you want her to come clean, right? And again, Linda's like, yeah. And then it goes nowhere, and he goes, so what happened to your father? That's not what happened. We know what happened. And again, she's just going, who told you what? I don't understand. And then finally, after 10 minutes of it just going nowhere, it's the same tone. Remember the Coen Brothers movie, Burn After Reading, where Brad Pitt is calling the Osborne Cox character, and he has that tone of voice like, is this Osborne Cox? He's trying to be like, and it goes, yes, this is. That's the tone that the investigator is going, we know what happened. And it's like, all right, it's kind of at a standstill. And then finally, the other interrogator, who has 30 years experience, just goes, Linda, let me bring you up to speed. That conversation that you had with Anthony Marsh we were listening in. We have a crystal clear record of what you said. And because Linda had said, well, if you're talking about what Anthony Marsh may have told you, things were said, I was joking. So he nips that in the bud and just said, we were listening, so don't pretend that you were joking or it was some funny thing when you told Anthony Marsh. And it was crystal clear. And also, I got a crystal clear story of what happened from your sister an hour ago. And Linda goes, you talked to my sister? And she goes, yeah. And they go, yeah, we did. So tell us what happened to your father. And they go, we know what you're saying didn't happen. And Linda goes, well, I just wanted to know who told you something different. And the interrogator goes, I told you. And Linda just goes, okay. And then the interrogator goes, so can we cut through the BS? And Linda goes, yes. And he goes, okay, so we've paid you the compliment of being honest with you. Are you going to be honest with us? And she goes, yes. She has no idea. She could just at any point go, actually, no, let me out of here. I'm done. Call my lawyer. But again, just a little bit stupid. It's never helped anybody in life. But so then Linda tells her version of the truth, like she leaves out the pillow part. I guess she thought it made her look better, that the pain or the sleeping pills failed, and then they went straight to the washcloth in the mouth. I would think that it would make them look better to just say the pillow is what worked. Like, we tried the sleeping pills, didn't work, and the pillow. But she figured that she left out the pillow, but Mary Beth had just talked about the pillow, so they got any differences, they got to say Linda. So, but between the sleeping pills and the washcloth, you tried to use a pillow. And Linda goes, I honestly don't remember honestly doing that. Honest to God, I honestly don't remember honestly using a pillow. She says the word honestly like 9 times in one sentence. It's like, well, there's one of your tells for lying. But anyway, once they get her going, she pretty much tells her truth, little tweaks here to make herself seem better, make her sister seem worse, and that's about all they needed. And one of the most interesting parts of the whole thing is after they've gotten everything they needed from Linda, they go, do you want to talk to your sister? She's in the other room. And Linda goes, yeah, sure, I'll talk to her. And so they bring in, she comes in like this with their handcuffs on. They look both like they're about ready to just keel over from weakness at any point. So they sit them in front of each other and close the door, and they're just looking at each other, and Linda goes, I don't know what to say. And Mary Beth goes, I don't think there is anything to say. And they both go, well, did you tell him? And they go, yeah, I told him everything. It's like, yeah, me too. And Mary Beth going, I can't believe you told Anthony. I can't believe you told that guy. And Linda's kind of there just with a dumb look on her face, like, I thought he was trustworthy. And it's really hard to hear the conversation they have, but a lot of it is them just staring at each other going, my life is over. I can't believe you told him. And he's going, my life is over too. And one of the most fascinating things about this one is Linda's decision to tell Anthony is like beyond. But it would be interesting how it would have played out if they would have known enough that you don't have to just go in and be bullied and battered around by the interrogators. If they would have come in, not said anything, got lawyers, and then the only thing would have been Linda's secret recording to Anthony, would have been fascinating to see how it would have ended up on that, because a good lawyer would have argued, yeah, I mean, she was talking out of her ass. She's a bizarre old woman on multiple drugs. That's another funny part in the interrogation. Linda is going, I've never taken illegal drugs. I do not take legal drugs. I take my thyroid medication. I take my blood pressure medication, a mild tranquilizer. Just the way she says, like, yeah, a mild tranquilizer. So a lawyer could have said, she's on a tranquilizer. She was talking out, but that's not the way it went. And Linda was sentenced to 20 years. She was 61, so I think she was in till 80s. And Mary Beth was in her late 50s, and she got 15 years. And that's really all she wrote for this one. I couldn't help but write a song for Anthony Marsh, the crotch shots and cover tunes guy. So Anthony, I'm going to leave you with this. If you are watching, you can cover this song. It's just a hook. You can, keep writing on it. Or if you want to pass it off as an original, you can also do that. But without further ado, here's a song that I just couldn't help write for Anthony. Picture him on the beach, leg up. It goes, crop shots and cover tunes, banging bunch of late 50s loons. The Florida sun shines on me. Bow, bow, bow. Piano solo. And so I think that's all I have, folks. The Jussie Smollett sentencing went off yesterday, and it was 5 hours long, and it's unbelievable. It really lived up to how the case has gone for the past 3 years. So I'm going to try to figure out a good episode about that. Love y'all. Talk to you soon. Why? Stabin' why? Shamita.